All right, we are back. Big Thursday night football preview here. Washington Commanders versus the Green Bay Packers. 48-point over-under, according to our friends at BetMGM. The Packers are 3.5-point home favorites. Nate, I kind of actually want to ask you about the Commanders' defense first here because I think they sorry, but I think like they might hold the key to this game, like in that 48-point total. Like, is this going to become a big-time back-and-forth fantasy football game? Because I think we know the Packers defense is good based on what we said earlier. I don't really know how good the Commanders defense is after week one because I had my suspicions about them, like maybe being a bit of a slight step back unit. But I think the front actually played pretty well in that game. But how much can I take away from a game against a Giants offensive line without Andrew Thomas and Russell, like, oh my God, the Russell Wilson thing behind center. So it's just like, I don't really know if this Commanders defense is any good, which is obviously important to deciding about guys like Jordan Love and some of these wide receivers in that like constant rotation they've got there.
Right. And that's my biggest takeaway was like, man, the Giants offensive line is bad. You better not put a rookie behind that offensive line. You're going to ruin his career. So that's my first takeaway for that entire game. No, what I really focused on too was I was looking at Dan Quinn, Matt LaFleur matchups when they both been play callers. And they worked together in Atlanta. But then there's been a couple times where Dan Quinn was one time he was DC with the head coach of the Falcons, and then two times when he was the defensive coordinator with the Cowboys. And I understand these are different defensive makeups, different personnel. I understand that the quarterback was Aaron Rodgers for a couple of these games and only Jordan Love for one of the games, which is the wild card game in 2023. But in those three games, Matt Harmon, Packers' explosive pass rate is above 25%. 1 out of 4 passes goes 16 yards or more in the 3 games. Over 3 games. That's a decent sample size. Average over 9 total explosives a game. You're going for like 6 usually. So 9 is great. 10 is amazing. If you're averaging over 9, 65% passing success rate for Packers quarterbacks against Dan Quinn defenses. For context, last week, Justin Fields led the NFL with 66 passing success rate, best of his career. But also, so basically their average was the best we saw all of last week. They also averaged 0.72 EPA per dropback. It's almost a point per dropback. Averaged 143 rushing yards per game with a 41% rushing success rate. Had a passer rating of 152.2. For context, perfect is 158.3. 3.4 yards or points per drive. So am I illustrating that I think Matt LaFleur has Dan Quinn's number? Because I think he does. And that was with a defense that had Micah Parsons on it for a couple of those games. And actually what I think was a faster and better overall defense, even if they had some holes. I just think that LaFleur kind of has his number. So I'm curious how the game plan is from Dan Quinn, if he's going to throw some wrenches, because I think if he plays his man heavy kind of defenses, I think LaFleur and Jordan Love, they're going to find some way to take advantage of this, and which actually my props will kind of show that a little bit. But I just think that he has the natural advantage because the Commanders defense did play well in week 1, but I'm just going off my offseason evaluation with them. I just think they have too many weaknesses overall on the defense.
Yeah, that was kind of my question there, was just like, is this the unit that we think it's going to be? And I just don't know that we got any read on that in week 1 because the Giants don't prepare us for any. So talk to me about these Packers pass catchers and maybe some of your props here, because, man, it was just this same old Packers rotation thing. It's like, hey, they drafted a first-round receiver to put an end to the receiver rotation. Nope, he runs around on like 53% of the dropbacks. And they give Christian Watson a 1-year extension because they just got to keep him around. Malik Heath still needs 4 routes in a game for whatever reason. So it's still, it looks like as difficult as ever a position to predict in fantasy football.
It still is. And I think there's just so much of this offense where everybody's in a specific role. Like they're building out the receiver room to use them in certain roles, as opposed to God, I know you've talked about it a million times. We've had conversations about it. I've talked about it. I think that's just the point of it. Like Golden is to take the top off the offense or the defense and can now do some auxiliary things. He showed up in preseason as well, but that's why he only sees like a chunk of the snaps, because then on other snaps, they're going 2 tight ends. On other snaps, they're going like, no, we're going to do this so I can get Jaden Reed a touch, and we need better blockers in there. Tucker Kraft is a part of this offense. As he props up, that's actually kind of great timing. Tucker Kraft's a big part of this offense as well. Like he's actually the guy I'm trying to grab everywhere, as opposed to one of the receivers. really the guy that benefits from all of this offensive system is Jordan Love, like, fantasy terms and real football terms. And in that sense, because when you have a guy in each role, if you have a good game planner, which I think LaFleur is, these guys are going to get highlighted in their best spots if you have guys that can validly take each role. So yeah, trying to handicap the receiving room is still impossible because it's like, it's one of those things, whoever catches the ball, I'm like, all right, which one is it? Oh, it's 87 this time. Which one is it? 13 this time. Like I have to look in to see which number. It's not like I can't just assume, oh, there's number 88 for the Cowboys catching that every single time. There's number 12 for the Rams catching that one every single time. With the Packers, it's always
I can tell you which one it is based on the alignment, like pre-snap alignment. I'm like, I know which one that's going to be. Like that. Just because I've spent
read in the slot.
Read in the slot or out of the backfield. Yeah, that's Jaden Reed. If it's on the boundary, that's Romeo Doubs. If it's the deep outbreaker, that's Matthew Golden. So there you go.
Perfect. Just reverse engineer it right off the top of the head. No, and so it's hard to handicap all that, but I will say that, props wise, one of the ones that I really like is Jordan Love over 234.5 yards. And if you get frisky, you make it over 250, which is plus 130 money. Because that's just, I laid out those stats. I think that he's going to have plenty of chunk plays. I think he'll get to that yardage. It's just one of those things they're going to do until they get stopped. So that's, I'm leaning on Jordan Love. I think they're going to get plenty of yards in this game.
I like that. It's like, as I always say, if you can't, it's the you don't forget the syrup, take the pancakes, or maybe the other way around. I always forget that analogy, but it's just like the guy that's going to distribute the ball to all those people.
Yes.
Just take that guy instead. And I do think Jordan Love, we're having a big Jordan Love game. If I'm trying to reverse engineer the wide receivers via props, here's how I think this is going to go. I would take the over on a Matthew Golden 18.5 longest reception, because I think they're going to get him a heater at least once in this game. I love your Jaden Reed anytime touchdown that you have on here, because I mean, they're not going to use him a ton. They're going to throw him out there when it matters. That was the thing. He only ran a route on like sub 55% of the dropbacks. He was targeted on over 40% of those. Like when he's on the field, he's getting the football, even though he doesn't have a foot. People are saying he doesn't have a foot. So I think he can get involved around the end zone. And then Romeo Doubs, though, I think beats the over on 3.5 receptions, because this is a team that goes man coverage heavy on late downs. And he is a guy that will beat man coverage on those quick in breakers to move the sticks. So I can see Doubs with 4 catches, Golden with the long one, and Jaden Reed getting involved in around the goal line. So there you go. There's how you reverse engineer the receiver room. Which I'll be wrong on every single one of those because it's such a weird receiver room.
It's so hard, and it's just one guy, and it's like, oh, there's I was gonna say Christian Watson coming off the bench, catch that go ball. No, the other one on top of this is just how you just mentioned all the man coverage. One of the Packers are one of the best coached teams as far as the scheme and how especially the Packers offensive line. One of their kind of strengths is how they're able to just use their offensive line to protect and getting Josh Jacobs out in routes, and not just routes like where he's doing tricky things, just even checkdowns. That is always the goal of protection. So one of the props I liked was Josh Jacobs over 90.5 rushing and receiving, because if they're going to run a bunch of man, he's going to go on a linebacker that I think he has an advantage on in space. No matter who it is, if it's Bobby, it's not going to probably be Bobby Wagner, because they like to rush Bobby Wagner because they don't want him in coverage, which is also a thing. Is if they're not blitzing him, is there going to be something to Jacobs to take advantage of that? And then Frankie Louvu, same thing. Great player going forward, not so much in space. So Jacobs, they're always going to run the ball. That's part of the offensive flow. It's one of the most run-heavy teams, no matter who's the quarterback with LaFleur. So Jacobs is going to get his touches, but I do think he's going to get good yards. I don't know if they can really stop the run yet. I got to see more proof of the Commanders' defense. So I think he's going to get a good amount of yards, but I do think he's going to get some cheap touches underneath as well, just because who else is there. The last Packers prop I have, this is more of a heat check. This is Luke Musgrave anytime touchdown plus 800. Just, I don't know. All that mentioned about the linebackers.
That's a heat check.
And some of the safety play. I don't know. Maybe a little vertical, something. Something where he's taking a corner route or down the seam, something down the pipe. Like Dan Quinn will throw in some cover 2. So maybe something right down the pipe, so that's a heat check plus 800. That's why. And then the last one for the Commanders, because we were so Packers heavy, Jane Daniels anytime touchdown at plus 175, because while I do think the Packers defense is very good, they had a high yardage total for Daniels, but Rashawn Gary and Micah Parsons can kind of take the cheese sometimes on zone read stuff. And even if they're game planning for it. So I think they'll get caught once. And like where he catches it, runs in a touchdown, whether it's inside the low red zone or beyond. So Jane Daniels, anytime touchdown.
I'm taking Commanders. I'm taking Packers to win and cover here, which means the Commanders are going to be in a trailing situation, which makes it tough for Bill Krosky-Merritt in fantasy because he just did not get any passing game usage, and you're going to need that passing game usage. He's like basically a touchdown or bust RB3. That's how I would view him in fantasy football. Meanwhile, I'm definitely tracking the Debo stuff. I want to give it one more week before I really say he could be a guy that can start every week in fantasy, but something to watch. I do think that Packers athletic front will be all over the run game there.